Announcing your big goal feels powerful. You tell your friends you're writing a book, launching the business, running the marathon, and you walk away feeling like a champion. Here's the problem. Decades of research show that the moment people clap for your intention, your brain quietly checks out. It treats the announcement like the achievement, and your odds of actually finishing, they drop. This isn't a motivational hot take. It's a finding that's been replicated for over 30 years, starting with a psychologist named Peter Gollwitzer at NYU. In 2009, he ran 4 studies on people pursuing identity goals: law students wanting to become lawyers, psychology students wanting to become clinicians, people chasing serious personal projects. Half were allowed to tell someone about their goal, half had to keep it private. Then everyone got a chance to work on real tasks tied to that goal. The result was almost embarrassing. The people who announced their goals worked less. They quit sooner. And when asked, they reported feeling closer to their goal, even though they had done nothing. Let that sink in. Talking about the goal produced the same psychological reward as making progress on the goal. Your brain can't tell the difference between "I told 10 people I'm going to run a marathon" and "I ran 10 miles this week." Both light up a similar feeling of identity completion. Gollwitzer called this the symbolic self-completion effect. When other people acknowledge who you're becoming, your mind files the job as partly done. And once a job feels partly done, motivation drops, because motivation runs on the gap between where you are and where you want to be. Shrink that gap artificially and the engine cools. Think about the last time you shared a big plan. Maybe you posted, "Day 1 of my new fitness journey." Maybe you told your family you were finally going back to school. Remember the feeling right after. That warm rush, the likes, the encouragement, the "I'm so proud of you." That feeling is the trap. It's a chemical reward your brain pays out for the social signal, not the work. And it's the same reward you'd get for actually grinding through week 1. Your nervous system doesn't audit the receipts. It just feels the applause and relaxes. Now you might be thinking, "But I've heard the opposite. Tell everyone. Make yourself accountable." That advice exists, and it sounds logical, but the research is more nuanced than the bumper sticker. Accountability works in narrow, specific conditions. When the person you tell has actual power to check on you, when there are real consequences for failing, and when the goal is broken into measurable behaviors, not identities. Telling your trainer you'll show up Tuesday at 6 a.m. is accountability. Telling Instagram you're becoming a runner is performance. One creates a consequence, the other creates a costume. Most of what people call accountability is just narration with extra steps. There's a second reason announcing backfires, and it's even sneakier. When you describe a future version of yourself out loud, you start identifying with that version before you've earned it. Psychologists call this premature identity claiming. You haven't built the skill, the habit, or the proof, but the label is already yours socially. And here's the catch. Once you wear an identity in public, your brain starts protecting it. Instead of doing the uncomfortable work that builds the real skill, you start defending the image. You argue about it, you read about it, you buy the gear, you explain your philosophy. None of that is the work. All of it feels like the work. You can see this everywhere once you spot it. The friend who's been writing a novel for 6 years and can describe every character but hasn't finished chapter 3. The cousin who's launching a business and has a logo, a website, business cards, and 0 customers. The co-worker who's getting in shape and owns 4 pairs of running shoes. None of these people are lazy. They're stuck in a loop where talking about the goal keeps satisfying the part of the brain that's supposed to push them toward the goal. Every conversation is a small withdrawal from a motivation account that never gets refilled by actual progress. So what do you do instead? The science points to 3 specific moves, and they're simple enough to start today. First, stay quiet about identity goals until you have evidence. An identity goal is anything about who you're becoming. A writer, an entrepreneur, an athlete, a healthier person. Keep those private. Don't post the journey. Don't announce the pivot. Let the work happen in the dark. The discomfort of not telling anyone is exactly the fuel you need. That unspoken gap between who you are and who you want to be is the engine. Don't release the pressure by talking. Second, if you must share behaviors, not identities. There's a huge difference between saying I'm becoming a writer and saying I'm writing 500 words every morning before work. The first is a costume, the second is a contract. Behavioral goals are specific, measurable, and they don't pay out symbolic rewards. Nobody congratulates you for writing 500 words today the way they congratulate you for starting my author journey. That's a feature, not a bug. Less applause means more hunger. Third, use what Gollwitzer himself recommends: implementation intentions. Instead of broadcasting a goal, you privately script a specific if-then plan. If it's 7 a.m. on a weekday, then I sit at my desk and write for 30 minutes. If I finish dinner, then I put on my shoes and walk for 20 minutes. This sounds boring because it is boring. That's why it works. There's nothing to perform, nothing to post, nothing for anyone to clap for. Just a trigger and a behavior, repeating until it becomes who you are. And then, eventually, the identity shows up on its own. Not as something you claimed, but as something other people start noticing about you. Here's the deeper shift. We live in a culture that rewards announcing. Social media is built on declaring intentions, sharing journeys, posting transformations before they've happened. Every platform gives you a small dopamine hit for telling the world who you plan to be. And every hit, according to the research, shaves a little off the motivation you'd need to actually become that person. The quietest people in the room are often the ones quietly winning. Not because silence is magical, but because they haven't spent their drive on the speech. So before you announce the next big thing, try something uncomfortable. Don't tell anyone, not your best friend, not your followers, not your parents. Just start. Let the first month happen in private. Let the second month show in your behavior, not your captions. By month 3, people will notice. And you won't need to tell them because they'll be telling you. That's the version of accountability that actually works. Your goal is not a story you tell, it's a thing you build in silence until it can speak for itself. If you found this useful, keep it to yourself, get to work, and come back when you've finished the thing nobody knew you started.